The snow fell softly outside the lawyer's office as I watched my husband James practically bounce in his seat. His expensive suit couldn't hide his nervous energy as Mr. Patterson, the family lawyer, sorted through the stack of documents before us. As you know, Mr. Patterson began, adjusting his wire-rimmed glasses, your grandmother's will has very specific requirements for accessing the inheritance. I shifted uncomfortably in my chair, feeling like an outsider in this conversation about old money and family legacies. My name is Rachel Waters, and after 5 years of marriage to James Montgomery Aita, I still wasn't used to the weight of his family name or the expectations that came with it. Yes, yes, James waved his hand impatiently. I have to be married, which I am. He grabbed my hand, squeezing it too tightly. Rachel and I have been together for 5 years. That satisfies the marriage requirement, right? Mr. Patterson's expression remained neutral as he pulled out a particular document. The will states that to access the inheritance of $10 million, you must be in a stable, committed marriage. Your grandmother was very particular about this point. I thought about James's grandmother, Eleanor Montgomery, who had passed away 3 months ago. She had been different from the rest of the Montgomery clan, warmer, more genuine. While the rest of the family barely tolerated my middle-class background, Eleanor had welcomed me with open arms. Well then, let's get on with it, James said, reaching for a pen. Where do we sign? Mr. Patterson held up a hand. There's more. The will requires annual reviews of the marriage's stability for the first 5 years. Any dissolution of the marriage during this period would result in significant consequences. I felt James's hand tighten around mine again. What kind of consequences? In the event of a divorce, Mr. Patterson said, his eyes flicking briefly to me, the entire inheritance would transfer to the spouse. The room went silent. I could feel James's palm growing sweaty against mine. That's ridiculous, he finally sputtered. Grandmother can't have mate. Your grandmother was very clear, Mr. Patterson interrupted. She believed that money should support lasting partnerships, not destroy them. He paused, shuffling some papers. She also left a letter for Rachel. My head snapped up. For me? James released my hand as Mr. Patterson pulled out an envelope, cream-colored and sealed with the Montgomery family crest. To be opened in private, the lawyer added as he handed it to me. I slipped the letter into my purse, very aware of James's eyes following my movement. The rest of the meeting passed in a blur of signatures and legal jargon. James was practically vibrating with excitement by the time we left, already making plans for the money. We'll need to renovate the house first, he said as we walked to our car. And I had my eye on that new Porsche. I barely heard him, my mind on the letter burning a hole in my purse. Eleanor had always been kind to me, but we weren't particularly close. What could she have to say that required privacy? That evening, after James had gone to bed, I sat in our home office and carefully opened the envelope. The paper inside was thick, expensive, and covered in Eleanor's elegant handwriting. My dear Rachel, if you're reading this, then James has brought you to sign the inheritance papers. Before you do, there are things you need to know. I've watched you these past 5 years, seen how hard you tried to fit into our world. I've also seen how my grandson treats you, the subtle cruelties, the dismissals, the way he takes you for granted. You deserve better. James doesn't know this, but I've had him watched. The photographs enclosed will show you exactly what kind of man you married. What you do with this information is your choice. But know this, the inheritance clause about divorce was written with you in mind. Sometimes we need an escape route to find our true path. Whatever you decide, know that you have an ally in me, even from beyond the grave. With love and hope, Eleanor. My hands trembled as I opened a second envelope. The photographs spilled out onto the desk and my world tilted on its axis. There was James in dozens of compromising situations, and kissing a blonde woman outside an upscale restaurant, entering a hotel with a redhead, having dinner with a brunette, his hand intimately placed on hers. The dates stamped on the photos showed a pattern stretching back years. I sat there for a long time, staring at the evidence of my husband's betrayal. Pieces started falling into place. The late nights at the office, the business trips that seemed to multiply, the way he always kept his phone face down. But what hit harder was Eleanor's foresight. She had known, had seen through James's facade, and had created this escape route specifically for me. I thought about the inheritance clause with new understanding. If I divorced James now, after he'd signed those papers, the entire $10 million would be mine. He would lose everything, not just his grandmother's money, but his pride, his standing in society, everything he valued. The pain of betrayal mixed with something else, a sense of possibility I hadn't felt in years. Before marrying James, I'd had dreams of my own. I'd wanted to start a boutique publishing house, giving voice to authors who struggled to find mainstream acceptance. But James had dismissed it as a cute hobby, and slowly, I'd let that dream fade. Now, staring at the photos, I felt those old ambitions stirring. With $10 million, I could not only start my publishing house, but make it something spectacular. My phone buzzed. A text from James, who was at a late meeting. "Don't wait up, darling. Important client dinner." I looked at the most recent photo, dated just last week, showing exactly what kind of dinner he was having. Something cold and hard settled in my chest. Taking out a fresh piece of paper, I began to write. Eleanor had given me the weapons. Now it was up to me to plan the perfect strategy. James thought he had everything under control. But he was about to learn a valuable lesson about underestimating the women in his life. I worked through the night, making calls to old contacts in the publishing industry, researching business plans, and most importantly, finding the best divorce lawyer in the city. By sunrise, I had a clear path forward. James came home early that morning, smelling of expensive perfume that wasn't mine. He didn't even glance my way as he headed upstairs to shower. I picked up my phone and dialed the number I'd found. "Hello, is this Claire Bennett's office?" "Yes, I'd like to schedule an urgent consultation with Ms. Bennett regarding a divorce." The wheels were in motion. James had no idea that his grandmother's final gift wasn't the money. It was giving me the power to reclaim my life. The divorce papers sat in my desk drawer for exactly 1 week. I wanted to time everything perfectly, and Christmas morning seemed fitting. James always said it was his favorite holiday. I watched him that week, really watched him for the first time in years. The way he strutted around our house, making grand plans for his inheritance. The casual cruelty in how he dismissed our housekeeper's holiday bonus request. The smug smile when he thought I couldn't see him texting his latest mistress. "We should have a party," he announced at breakfast, 4 days after signing the inheritance papers. "Something spectacular to announce our good fortune." I nodded, buttering my toast. "When were you thinking?" "New Year's Eve. We'll invite everyone who's anyone." He barely looked up from his phone. "The Hartleys, the Petersons. Oh, and that new client of mine, Victoria. She has excellent social connections." Victoria, the blonde from the photos, I presumed. My hand tightened around the butter knife. "Sounds perfect," I said, keeping my voice light. "I'll start planning." He finally glanced up, surprised. "You will? That's unusually helpful of you." I smiled. "Well, it's a special occasion." The next few days passed in a blur of careful preparation. I moved money into separate accounts that James couldn't access. I secured a new apartment under a different name. I had long conversations with Claire Bennett, my divorce lawyer, making sure everything was airtight. Christmas Eve, James insisted on hosting his family for dinner. I played the perfect wife one last time, serving his favorite dishes, laughing at his father's terrible jokes, pretending I didn't notice his mother's backhanded compliments. "You've done well for yourself, James," his father said over dessert. "The inheritance, the beautiful home." But he waved vaguely in my direction. "Suitable wife." James beamed. "Everything's falling into place exactly as I planned." I excused myself to make coffee, fighting back a laugh. Men like James and his father never saw it coming. They were so convinced of their own superiority that they couldn't imagine being outmaneuvered by someone they considered beneath them. That night, after his family left, James was in an unusually good mood. He even kissed my cheek before bed, the first time he'd shown me any affection in months. "Thank you for tonight," he said. "You know, with the inheritance coming through, maybe we should think about having children. Carrying on the Montgomery name and all that." I lay awake long after he started snoring, thinking about Eleanor's letter. Had she known her grandson would try to trap me further once he got the money? Had she seen this coming too? Christmas morning dawned bright and cold. I was up early setting the stage. Coffee brewing, breakfast laid out, presents arranged under the tree. I wanted everything to be perfect. James stumbled downstairs around 9. Already reaching for his phone. "Merry Christmas," he mumbled. "Merry Christmas." I replied, handing him a coffee. I have something special for you. He perked up. A present? You could say that. I pulled out an envelope tied with a red ribbon. I've been planning this for a while. He took it, smiling. You didn't have to. His voice trailed off as he opened the envelope and saw the divorce papers. His face went through a series of expressions: confusion, disbelief, anger. What is this? He demanded. I think you know exactly what it is. I took a sip of my coffee. Oh, and you might want to read the inheritance clause again. Very carefully. He stared at me, then lunged for his phone. I watched calmly as he pulled out the documents, his face growing paler by the second. You can't, he whispered. You wouldn't. I stood up, walking to my purse. These might interest you too. I spread Eleanor's photos across the table. Your grandmother was quite thorough. James looked like he might be sick. Rachel, wait. We can talk about this. Whatever you want. A bigger allowance, a new car, anything. Anything except fidelity, respect, or basic human decency. I shook my head. It's too late, James. The papers are already filed. He jumped up, knocking over his chair. I'll fight this. I'll get the best lawyers. You'll what? I interrupted. Explain to everyone how you lost $10 million because you couldn't keep it in your pants. Tell them how your grandmother outsmarted you from beyond the grave. Go ahead. I'm sure the society pages will love that story. His face turned an alarming shade of red. You planned this. You're nothing but a gold digger. I laughed, actually laughed. No, James, I'm something much worse. I'm the woman you underestimated. Picking up my purse, I headed for the door. Oh, and you might want to cancel that New Year's Eve party. I don't think you'll be in a celebrating mood. Where are you going? He shouted after me. To start the life you never thought I was capable of having. The next few months were a whirlwind of legal proceedings and social fallout. James fought the divorce, of course, but Eleanor's documentation was ironclad. Claire Bennett, my lawyer, was ruthlessly efficient in dismantling every argument his legal team tried to make. The society circles James had once dominated buzzed with the scandal. His mistresses, confronted with the photos, turned against him one by one. Victoria, the blonde, even gave an interview to a gossip column, detailing their affair in embarrassing detail. Meanwhile, I focused on building my publishing house. The first office I leased was small but perfect, bright and airy, with big windows and endless possibility. I hired a team of young, hungry editors who shared my vision for amplifying underrepresented voices. 6 months after that Christmas morning, I sat in my office reviewing manuscripts when my assistant buzzed me. Ms. Waters? There's a James Montgomery here to see you. I looked up, surprised. I hadn't seen James since the divorce was finalized. Send him in. He looked different, thinner, less polished. The arrogance had been replaced by something darker, more desperate. Rachel, he said, hovering in the doorway. You look, well. What do you want, James? He stepped inside, fidgeting with his tie. I need help. The family's cut me off. The firm, they asked me to take a leave of absence, something about moral character concerns. And I thought, maybe we could work something out. The inheritance, maybe we could share it. I leaned back in my chair, taking in the man I'd once loved, now reduced to begging for scraps. No, I said simply. But the money is being put to good use, James. We're publishing authors who deserve to be heard. We're making a difference. I stood up. That's what your grandmother wanted, for her fortune to do something meaningful, not fund your affairs and ego. He stared at me for a long moment. You've changed. No, I corrected him. I've always been this person. You just never bothered to see it. After he left, I opened my desk drawer and pulled out Eleanor's letter. The paper was worn now from multiple readings, but her words still brought comfort. Sometimes we need an escape route to find our true path. She had given me more than money. She had given me the push I needed to become who I was meant to be. In trying to secure his inheritance, James had lost everything. But I had gained something far more valuable than $10 million. I had found myself. 1 year to the day after that fateful Christmas morning, I stood in a packed auditorium, preparing to launch our publishing house's first major release. A memoir by a brilliant young writer who'd been rejected by every major publisher. Looking out at the crowd, I spotted a familiar face in the back. Mr. Patterson, Eleanor's lawyer, gave me a small nod. Next to him was an empty seat with a single rose. Eleanor's favorite flower. As I stepped up to the podium, I smiled, thinking of how different my life had become. James had thought the inheritance was his happy ending. Instead, it had become my beginning. Welcome, everyone, I began. Today, we're not just launching a book. We're launching a new chapter in publishing, one that believes every voice deserves to be heard. The applause washed over me, and in that moment, I sent a silent thank you to Eleanor. She had known what I needed before I did. Not just an escape route, but a launch pad. James' Christmas gift had been divorce papers. But Eleanor's gift had been something far more precious, the chance to write my own story.